Hey all, I want to talk about something I've been interested in lately, subharmonics. So I'm going to build something in Reaktor that's going to play some subharmonics for us, taking inspiration from a recent Moog synthesizer. But as always, our main point here isn't Reaktor.
It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
So just to refresh our memories, harmonics are whole number multiples of a fundamental frequency. So if we have 100 hertz, the first whole number is 1. 1 times 100 hertz, that's our first harmonic. 2 times 100 hertz is 200 hertz, that's our second harmonic, etc. Now, harmonics are important because the harmonic makeup of a sound makes up its timbre. Check out my video on additive synthesis if you want a refresher on that. Subharmonics, though, are whole number divisions of a frequency. These subharmonics are not generally part of the naturally occurring sound, but these divisions do have a harmonic relationship to the original pitch. So what started me thinking about subharmonics was a video I found about using the Eurorack Make Noise Maths module as a subharmonic oscillator. But of course, this idea of subharmonics has been around for a while. One of the versions of a very early musical instrument, the Trautonium, used subharmonics, and of course many people now are familiar with the Moog Subharmonicon. It's worth noting that even outside of electronic music, composers like Henry Cowell and Harry Partch were using this subharmonic series in their compositions. Partch creating a harmonic language based on what he called O-tonality and U-tonality, using these overtone and undertone systems. If you're interested, I recommend digging into all these things more, but for now, let's move over to Reaktor and hear some things. Okay, I got a new ensemble in Reaktor, don't need my inputs. So let's start just by quickly reviewing harmonics and what they sound like. Let's do a note pitch MIDI in, a gate MIDI in. For today, let's keep it simple and we'll just have an AR envelope. Gate, for now I'm not going to create controls for that, I might in a moment. Let's create a macro, new macro, and we'll call this harmonics. So by the way, if I'm doing anything here that's unfamiliar, I'm just assuming that you know how to set up oscillators in Reaktor. So if you're not clear on that, I'll link my video on that up top here, but I promise you this is going to be pretty simple. So once again, a macro is just a container that we can put things in. Let's put in an input. We'll have 2, and we'll have one of these inputs be our P for pitch, and one of these inputs be an A for amplitude. Back outside of the macro, note pitch in there, air in there. We need something to go out. This will be our sound going out. There's my output. Output running to left speaker and right speaker. So first, let's just make a sine oscillator. Pitch in, amp in, out. Okay, great. There's our sine wave oscillator. So in order to do a harmonic, we need to take the frequency and get whole number multiples of it, remember? So one problem is this P is not frequency, it's pitch, right? So this is note number. So middle C here is 60. And an octave above that, which would be twice the frequency, is 72. So we need to use this exp, or Expon F. Pitch goes in here, and now this has converted it into a frequency for us. So what do we do once we have that frequency? We multiply it, Mink. Let's create a control there. And now we have a frequency coming out of this. So we need to convert it back to a pitch, and we can do that with a log F. And I'll talk through this in just a moment. Let's duplicate our sine wave. Pitch goes in there. And now we need a way to mix them together. We'll do an amp mixer. Holding down Command as I drag the wire to create a new input. Go into the output. create control, original, create control, harmonic. Okay. So as I clean up my panel here, original, harmonic, and here's the multiplication. Again, the multiplication is only affecting that harmonic, so I'm going to set that up there. Okay, I play a key, the pitch comes in, the pitch affects this sine wave oscillator, and that gets mixed together and sent to the output. The pitch also comes in, gets converted to a frequency from a pitch. That frequency is multiplied here. Let's set this multiply to have a maximum of 16, a minimum of 1, we don't want to multiply by 0, and a step size of 1. So if I do that, now this knob only has whole numbers, which is great because harmonics are whole number multiples of the fundamental. Just to go back into our flow here, frequency multiplied here, turned back into a pitch and put into the sine. Let's hear what that sounds like. Turn these both down a hair because I'm going to get the clipping. So I'm playing different notes for the fundamental, and then I'm able to create that harmonic based off of them. Okay, this is all well and good. Now, if I wanted to make an additive synthesizer, I'm most of the way there. All I would do is go Command D, and then hold down Command, Bink, create control. Now we need to be careful about our labeling. Harmonic 1, harmonic 2, 2, 1. Okay, and so now I can have 2 harmonics. Make sure I get these lined up correctly. This one's 2, this one's 1, right? I'm making sure I'm putting the knobs in a place where it logically makes sense. We'll lock it down, turn down the harmonic 2 a bit. Now, it sounds a bit like a Hammond organ without vibrato. Neat to point out that when I play different notes, we don't hear it as chords. We don't hear it as 3 different pitches. We hear those harmonics as part of the timbre. When I do this, we definitely hear the pitches changing, but then okay, that's pretty neat, huh? So this is an additive synth, but this is absolutely not what I promised we were going to do today. I promised we'd make some subharmonics. So if you like this additive synth, save it, because we're going to ruin it as we turn this into a subharmonic oscillator. It's actually pretty straightforward, right? All I need to do is take these, delete them, and now instead of a multiply, I put in a divide. And I'll probably rename that knob, right? Because we've already set everything up to snap to those whole number values, etc. So, div 1. I could probably delete the whole thing and then duplicate it out, but we'll just do it this way. Div 2. Okay, so now we have one minor problem, which is that since we're now looking at subharmonics, undertones as opposed to overtones, they're going kind of super duper low, especially if I play low on my keyboard. We can't really hear those very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another knob here. I'm going to put in an add. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it so that this pitch can be transposed. I'm just running that into everywhere the pitch was. Move it over so I'm a bit tidy here. Create control. Let's just make this transposed by octaves. You can do it a different way, but let's set the minimum to be 0, the maximum to be 36, so that's 3 octaves, and the step size to be 12. So this knob now snaps by the octave, right? And so it's no transposition, up an octave, up 2 octaves, up 3 octaves. And while we're at it, we'll rename it transpose. Transposer isn't a bad name either, but Okay. Okay, not quite the same vibe as harmonics. We actually, when I play different keys, we definitely still hear a chord there, the individual pitches, rather than those harmonics which sort of blend into a single timbre. Worth noting, let me just turn down one so we can list the ones that are subharmonics. Division 1, so that's no division, right? So all of these that are a factor of 2, so 2, that's going to be an octave. 4 is going to be 2 octaves. 8 is going to be 3 octaves. And 16 is going to be 3 octaves. So the interesting stuff to me is not the octaves, it's the in-between stuff. Okay, neat. Now, if we're gonna rip off the Subharmonicon a little bit, sine waves aren't the most interesting way to go. Let's do a pulse. I'm just gonna do the vanilla pulse oscillator here. And then let's do a sawtooth oscillator. Once again, nothing special, no FM, nothing like that. I'm actually not even gonna use the pulse width of the pulse, but you could if you wanted to. All right, bink. Bink to the pitch, bink, bink to the amplitude, and then, so we're gonna add a switch here that allows us to choose between those. Wire in, holding down command to wire in, SQU for square, SAW for sawtooth, run it into there. Okay, here's that switch. Always important to know once you add a switch, you're not going to get any sound coming through unless you turn on that switch. Okay, nice to have a few more harmonics. Let's now, since we're getting into it a bit, let's make a macro for Subharmonic OSC, Subharmonic Oscillator. I'm just going to cut this, X. Put it inside here, V. I'm going to give it an N, and this input is going to be pitch, right? Because that's all our subharmonic oscillator cares about. Actually, now that I think about it, we probably want an A too. Command D. A. Now I'm going to steal this, right? I'm going to steal that choice of the oscillators. Command C. Command V. P. P. Actually, just going to call this div now because we'll have them all in a macro. A. Output. Okay. So now, since I'm doing it in macros now, Subharmonic 1. Okay. So, as we know, with macros, it's always smartest for us to clean things up before we duplicate. I probably would go over here to View, turn off Show Label, right? Subharmonic 1 is such a long word. Let's make it Subharm 1. And let's make this one Subharm 2. I could do something where I have the volume controls inside the macro, but let's not worry about it. Pitch. Pitch. Amplitude, amplitude, out. Take all of our friends here. Mixer is over there. Oh yeah, for this switch, let's turn off show label too. We should rename this macro Subharmonics. Okay. We'll lock it down. Can add some controls for attack and release there. Okay. Since we're stealing some ideas here, let's do another new macro. We'll put in a filter. In. Out. We're going to put in the ladder filter. Whoops, I put it in the wrong place. Command X, Command V. Again, ladder filter. This is based off of the Moog filter. Okay. For now, let's just create controls. We'll make this better in just a second. Oops, I grabbed the attack there, but let's just move our filter over here. As I play with the knobs, my filter is not plugged in. I did the 4-pole output, and again, this is just sort of stealing from the Subharmonicon. You can choose whichever, 2 poles, 12 decibels per octave, etc., etc. So this is 24 decibels per octave. Once again, if we're stealing from the Subharmonicon, we need an envelope filter there. Let's put in another gate MIDI in. Create control, create control. So what we'll do is we'll make a multiplication. We'll take this envelope that's going from 0 to 1. Oh, actually, let me do this. Sorry, I always forget this in Reaktor, but we need an A to E. This is converting this envelope, which is technically audio, into something that we can add to our P there. So anyway, you don't have to worry about it too much, but you see it's the white to the yellow, and we want to add to this P cutoff here. So we want to multiply by, let's create a control there, and then we'll just call this env depth. This is going to be the depth of that envelope. And we'll take that. We'll have to adjust that in just a second, but we're going to add that env depth to the P cutoff there. Bink. Let's take this now, change its range, the maximum to be, I don't know, 80. These are note numbers, right? So let me clean up this panel and start talking about this a little bit. So we have our P cutoff, right? But then we have an envelope that we're going to multiply by that depth and then add that to that cutoff. So if we have this, for example, at 0, nothing's going on, right? No motion with the envelope. Let's turn up the envelope depth, right? Okay, I think that's pretty fantastic. Okay, well, it's not having the sequencer, but we have the basic sound generation idea from the Moog Subharmonicon here. All right. Of course, I can just keep adding subharmonic oscillators here. I can just keep duplicating these and adding spaces to them for the mixer, but you get the general idea. Now, if I wanted to make this more of a Trautonium, I actually have a whole other video on making a formant filter, and so you could bring that formant filter over and replace this filter with that format filter instead. As always, we've put things in a macro, so if you want to bring this little Subharmonics thing anywhere you like, you can. You just need to hook it up to an envelope and a filter of your choice. Anyway, I think this is a neat sound, so you can make some great undertone chords and add them to your compositions.